Good job, guys. You obviously solved the problem. So today came out, two things happened. Walmart is going to remove all violent video games from display cases, I believe. So they're still going to sell them, but they're just not going to have any promotional material. They're not going to have them out front and center, which means there's not going to be any games in the display case, as pretty much 90% of video games have some form of violence, I guess you could say. A gun, whatever you want, but okay, whatever. But another thing that happened that kind of slid under the radar as well was the fact that ESPN is taking off the Apex Legends tournaments or whatever, I guess. Apparently, because of the wake of the mass shootings that just recently happened last week, I think it was Saturday or whatever, when they both happened. Frustratingly enough, though, it's not because of the mass shootings. They'll say that it is, but the reality is it's because of the pressure that the president and these Republican lawmakers have put on the fact that they've trotted back out that same old dead horse, that beaten dead horse. They're going to go ahead and beat on it some more about how violent video games create radicalized people.
We must stop the glorification of violence in our society. This includes the gruesome and grisly video games that are now commonplace.
When obviously, while I could sit here and spend this whole video proving to you that it's not, there are studies, there have been things that have been done recently, the last several years, to prove that this isn't actually a fucking thing. Instead, I want to bring up the things that they're obviously trying to distract us from. Two big things have happened this week that are really important and I feel like need to be talked about. And I know there are some people out there that are talking about them, but I want to be another voice to bring it up because I think it needs to be said. The first thing was the massive amounts of raids that have happened where well, I gotta try to remember this detail. I'll put the article here, and so if it's wrong, and I'm saying what I'm saying is silly, I apologize, but apparently happened on these business places, a lot of them in Mississippi and stuff, and that's obviously, it all happened this week, right after the mass shooting, completely swept under the rug. Something that I because of the political junkie that I am and the people that I follow, I did hear about it, but if I wasn't the person I am now, and I was who I was 3-4 years ago, I would have totally missed this. And it needs to be talked about. And it turned out like half of them weren't even illegal. They were just, they were round-skinned people. They looked illegal. And it's another thing that was totally from the rug. But the big thing that really I feel like needs to be shouted from the rooftops by everybody is the fact that the president and all these Republican lawmakers are out there trotting out that same beaten dead horse because they don't want you to know how there's a growing threat of white terrorism. White nationalist terrorism, neo-Nazi terrorism, whatever you want to call it. Terrorism. People in the Defense Department wanted, as they've been tracking, and they're like, dude, this is an issue. You've got people, and I've been correcting people left and right about how Antifa aren't terrorist organizations, as none of them have actually killed anybody. And they're not even organizations anyways. However, you've got organizations like the KKK and neo-Nazis. They're not listed as terrorism, but you've got people calling for Antifa to be terrorists. The problem is the fact that after we know of in El Paso, it was a white nationalist who wanted an ethno-state, and there's been a growing rise of these fucking assholes over the last 3, 4, 5 years. This has started happening before Trump even took office. But Trump has emboldened them in a way never seen before. And I don't care if I get flack for that. He has. They have been coming out in droves. They are marching in the streets. They are at protests. Saluting, saying, Sieg Heil. And the fact that you genuinely have senators and like I said, the president himself coming out and trotting out that, oh yeah, violent video games create these radicalized young men is horseshit. People need to realize that our president, he has always been, but on this particular issue, he's absolutely full of shit. Maybe one day I'll do a video when some of this has died down, talking about the studies that have been done and showing all the things and whatnot, talking about how video games do not cause people to become violent. I really want to use this video, and it's not a very long one, to just talk strictly about the fact that they're using this excuse to go ahead and bury these other things. Do not be fooled. If they are trotting out that argument, whenever they're trotting out that argument, remember that they are trying to distract you from something bigger. Something nasty, or something that's actually fucking true. And this goes for really just about anything. Whenever they trot out an old excuse about anything, and not just video games, anything, they bring up something that you know has been debunked, you know you've seen in your lifetime at least once before, you know doesn't actually exist. It's because they genuinely want to distract you from something bigger, so make sure you keep your eyes open. People getting picked up, and hell, some people getting deported who have been citizens 98% of their life, 99% of their life. Hell, there was one dude who we just found out this week, I think it was like Wednesday maybe, that he went ahead and, you know, I guess he wasn't, I guess his parents were from Iraq or whatever. They picked his ass up and they shipped him back over. He died. He needed insulin. You know, he was diabetic and he couldn't get anything. They found him dead in the streets. And I mean, that's been posted around all over the place too. People have been talking about that. I think I commented on it too, about how it's sad. It's depressing to sit there and see people who, they are American. We need to sit there and call this stuff out, because right now, that's all. That's the thing, is like I said, they're using distracting tactics. You know, oh look, shiny thing over there, check it out. And we need to keep our eye on the ball. And I'm really ashamed of you, Walmart, and I'm really ashamed of ESPN. Because really all you're doing is just caving into this goofy narrative. And all you're doing is caving and helping continue the distraction. All you have to do is just go look at the fucking studies. There are studies out there. They exist. Just go do that before you start pulling shit. Alright guys, that's going to be it for me. Like I said, it's going to be just a short video. And I'll go ahead and I'll see you guys on the next episode.